This is the Authentic Dating series brought to you by Ahmad and David,
where we explore what it takes to have a dating life you're excited about.
Hey guys, I'm David.
I'm Ahmad.
And this is the Authentic Dating series.
So we are back empowering men to take control of their dating lives through giving you a complete understanding of how to create meaningful and passionate connections that you desire.
Yeah, it's awesome, right?
Yeah.
So, but we've also got a wonderful free gift that we're giving away. If you head over to our website, we'll also put the link into the show notes. Is eight huge mistakes that men make in their online dating profiles. So basically, we go over like how you're fucking up your photos, how you're fucking up your profile, how you're fucking up your messages, and how we can help you fix all of those things. We've got pro tips in there, step-by-step guides. Like we couldn't really give you anything more other than if we brought you to our house and we sat you down and we wrote it for you.
Yeah, that's a different thing. So
that's available if you need some coaching.
Yeah. So you can find that. I think you said the link is in the bio, and you can download it from our website. We put a lot of energy into that. Yeah. So go ahead, download it, enjoy it, and let us know what you think. Now, this next episode I'm really, really excited. We had a huge guest. We really love this guy. His name is Jason Graystone, and he's all about helping people to live free. And what that means is to get back your time and stop worrying about what other people want of you or what society says, and how to create a life that's really on your own terms. And so we brought him in to talk to us about, because one of the things about Jason is he's created an incredible relationship. He's known his wife for over 17 years. 7 years they knew each other, and 10 years I think they've been married.
Yep, 10 years.
And I think in today's age, we're currently in 2020, and that's a rare gem.
Yeah, and in the episode, he basically gives you some of the incredible gems that only a man who has been through a 17-year relationship can give you, who's been through, the hardships, the good, the bad. But what he really goes into is how you can both empower each other in your relationship. And that is like, how can you, in essence, like make each other better people, but like not from a place of lack, but just a place of love, and continually doing that. And this is a man who is a multi-millionaire investor, property owner, business owner, who is helping singles, couples, and all sorts of people build the life of their dreams. So if you don't want to take advice from this man, then really there's no one you want to really be listening to.
Yeah, I mean, we could say so much more, but I think we should just get straight into it.
Yeah. So without further ado, we'll get straight into the episode.
Do you want to go?
No, you go.
All right. So I'm very excited today. We've got a very special guest with us. His name is Jason Graystone. Some of you may have heard his own podcast. It's always free, and it's available on iTunes. Really, really cool podcast. I've been listening to a lot of it, a lot of great information about financial awareness, I'd have to say, like mindsets and awareness. But we got Jason here right now. Jason?
Hello. Thanks for having me. Really cool.
Pleasure, man.
Yeah, I've been listening to this podcast for a while now. I love it.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks, man. Yeah. I was overwhelmed with your appreciation of our podcast and your thoughts on it. He just kept saying it's really fresh, it's refreshing.
It's raw, yeah. I just love everything that's real. Like I love it.
Because we're always so like, how can we make it better? What can we do that's better? And then when people are like, yeah, I really love it, we're like, we need some badness that we can make better.
Yeah, I think the reason people love it so much is it's quite polarizing, isn't it? So you're attracting like literally people that agree with everything you say, and everyone else just probably won't listen to it.
Yeah.
so I love it.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, it was great to hear. Yeah. And so you want to tell us a bit about yourself, Jason, just for listeners?
Yeah. So I'm Jason Graystone. I'm a professional investor and currency trader. So I trade the financial markets, and I became financially independent about 29, 30 years old, that crossover between 29 and 30. And been married for 10 years this year. And I've been with my wife for 17 years. Wow. And I've got 2 kids, and I really just dedicate my time to teaching people, helping people become empowered around their own finances, their business finance, their personal finance, and helping them achieve a level of financial independence so that they can kind of focus on areas of life that they find fulfilling and rewarding.
Yeah, that's really cool, man. Yeah, I know since so we actually met Jason at a podcasting event that he was putting on
Yeah.
for free, and well, pretty much for free.
Yep.
And yeah, there's a lot of great content, and you really do. I have to say, he really does walk his talk.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
even his Instagram videos, man, they make me laugh.
Yeah.
The one where in the morning he's going to go pick up his mail.
I love the morning mail, the little morning mail group.
Yeah, it's jokes.
That's
But,
my chore for the week.
yeah, you're sure. Yeah, sure for the week. But yeah, it's great to have you on as well. And I know you were really enthusiastic about what we're up to, and also wanting to share from your own experience. I mean, it's amazing to hear that you've been in a 10-year marriage, you've been with your wife for 17 years. Yeah, it seems like in this day and age, so many people are in flaky relationships, or everything seems uncertain, and yet you have a very what's that, like rock style relationship?
Yeah, look, I'm not going to say that we're like a power couple or anything like that, but we certainly work towards that. And in the time that we've been married, or the time we've been together, certainly every single person that we've known has had a broken relationship. So no one we know is still with the same person that when we met. So we've kind of outlasted all of those relationships. And I think the main reason that people kind of flake away is because they've got different values and agendas to their partners, and a lot of that gets them down this path of just focusing on certain areas of life when, really you need kind of balance of all areas. And I'm going to talk about that in the podcast, actually, because that's what we do. But you kind of need balance of all areas of life to be empowered in all areas of life. And if you're kind of disempowered in one area of life, you're going to search for it, but you're never going to get there because you're not really working on it, because it's not high on your values. Therefore, you end up kind of just searching something. That's why you always say, you hear people say, oh, there must be a man out there, there must be a woman out there must be someone out there that's kind of perfect, and everyone kind of chases this perfect relationship. Well, it doesn't really exist. Happiness isn't external, it's in you, and you're never going to find someone that makes you happy. You've got to make yourself happy. That's what I think, anyway.
Totally agree.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I love this idea of empowering yourself first. And essentially taking your own life and your own responsibility, and really focusing on that. From the
so
inside out.
One of my mentors is a guy called Dr. John Demartini. I don't know if you've heard of him, but he's a great guy. He featured in the book The Secret, which was a little bit woo woo, but I've followed him and studied him for many years. In fact, I'm just about to go and do his breakthrough experience again in September with my wife. But phenomenal. His work is phenomenal. He's a scholar. He's read, I think, 30,000 books. He just goes around the world teaching people universal principles and balance. He's all about balance. And I don't know why I'm drawn to him so much. Maybe it's because I just like balance. I don't know if it's because I'm Libra or it's because I'm or a trader. I just like I don't like a lot of hassle going on around me. So I like a bit of balance. And he talks about 7 areas of life, and really the 7 areas are health, wealth, business or vocation, relationships, social leadership, spirituality. And if you empower yourselves in all of those areas, you find that everything kind of magnetizes towards you without you having to go and search for it. So what you normally find is, like, the average couple, they're empowered in 2 or 3 areas. So there's normally and they're normally the 2 or 3 areas that are highest on their values, funnily enough. And that's kind of a normal progression. So it's like someone might be very, very good at the family and the social, maybe, and then the other one might be really good at business and managing the money. And it's like we're naturally attracted to the opposite. There's even a saying, opposites attract, and that's why. It's because we're trying to attract those voids that are filling the gaps of what we aren't inspired to go and do. If you don't like business, you're not going to sit there, or you're going to struggle to sit there and build up your business game when you're just not. So you go and search out someone to fill that gap. So what you normally find are these couples that are kind of empowered in 2 or 3 areas. But the problem with that is there's a level of codependency. And when there's codependency, there's always a level of unfair exchange. And there's always, because of that, there's always a level of resentment. So there's a wasp on my microphone. I don't know if you heard that.
Yeah, I heard something.
Yeah. So there's a level of codependency, which means there's a level of resentment. And when you think about kind of, and it's sad to see, but most couples, like the lowest level, is where one just does one area of life and one does one area of life. So one might just do the family and one does the job. And that means that both partners are usually disempowered. And the one that loves the family usually wants to kind of escape and get more social or even start a job. I see that a lot. And the one that does the job normally wants more time with the family or wants to start going to the gym and working on their health and things like that. And that couple normally feel really, really stuck. And I've seen many, many couples like this. It's like they feel neither's bringing too much to the table, and they feel like they're just getting by, and they feel a bit pissed off, and they bicker with each other, but they feel like they need the other person.
But they also must feel like a lot of distance between each other.
Absolutely. Yeah, distance. Yeah, I mean, I've heard you guys talk about distant couples, and I've heard you guys talk about many of the subjects that are almost either, a result of what I'm talking about here on many of your other podcasts. But the average couple, the people that are kind of working up their game a little bit, they're normally 2 or 3 areas. But they still feel like they need something from the other partner. So I've seen people, stay their whole lives with partners just because they've settled and they think that, we need them, or, he's lovely because he does that, or she's lovely because she does that, and they never want to break up. And it's a tragedy, really. So what we do is build up the areas that we're weak in a specific way. We actually, it's almost a little bit conniving at first, I guess.
What do you mean by conniving? As in strategic?
So yeah, a bit strategic, I guess. So what I like to do is I like to figure out, because don't get me wrong, I have helped my wife become empowered in more areas. She was, you came to my party at the weekend. She was networking with a load of entrepreneurs. She's now writing a book, she's not the business person. Whereas I've been, as I said earlier, a bit of an emotional, don't show too much emotions. And she's helped me become more compassionate. She's helped me more about the family. I grew up, my parents were very kind of prudish. I wasn't allowed to share too much with my mum. I didn't have a really, I couldn't talk to my mum about intimacies and things like that, where some parents are very, very open about that. And I think that's better, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And I didn't have that. So she's helped me do that and be more like that with the kids. But what we do is we kind of try and figure out how you can both get what you want in a situation. So, for example, if I love, she loves the family and she loves socializing, and I love business, I love growing business, and I love kind of entrepreneurship. There might be a situation where there's a networking event coming up, and I could go to her and say, look, we'll go to this networking event, get others on board, bring some friends, let's invite the friends, and we'll get some friends and we'll attend the networking event together. And by doing that, you kind of empower each other, because you're getting the time with the friends and you're also getting what you want in terms of the business, and she's empowering herself because she's around that networking event. So she's working on her networking in her business as well. She's getting exposure to that as well. And without knowing it, you're kind of empowering each other. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. A question that arises, and I know you recently dropped a podcast about this, is about what if your partner isn't up for getting involved in a networking event or feels shy?
Yeah, if your partner feels shy, then you've got to kind of work your way up to it. You got, there's other things you can do. I'm talking about networking events, but there's other things you could talk about. Watching a webinar together, or reading a book together, or maybe going even as little as just going down the pub with friends to talk about a business idea or talking, things like that. Just kind of subtly bringing it in. I remember when I met my wife, she was very much she was very much we both came from quite, relatively poor families. So we've never really had money growing up. But when I met her, I was in the mindset of I'm going to make a lot of money. And she's very much, oh, that's expensive. That's very expensive. We could never have that much money. And over the years, I've seen that develop just because of the exposure to the large revenues that I've created through businesses. And now she's kind of up on that level where she thinks what used to be a lot of money now isn't a lot of money. And, that's empowered her in terms of finance as well. So there's things you can do to slowly build it up, but it's what you need to realize is they're not naturally going to do it, because if they were naturally, if it was high on their values, they would have done it already for themselves. So it's never going to be raised up at the level that you're going to raise your game up in that area. But just by empowering it slightly, you become less codependent. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So it's like really kind of supporting your partner in their growth as well as a person. Like, and it might not be, the example you're giving is like wealth and business, but this could equally be in kind of spirituality, or kind of, as you said, one of the other pillars was like within their family, for instance. Like they might have a distant family and you do work together to kind of like bring people back together and
absolutely. Look, so let's just say that your wife's really into fitness and you're a couch potato, and maybe your wife's family runs a family gym. Well, she could then introduce you to go to the family gym. If family's on high on her, or your family's on your high on your values, then her family run a gym, gets you to go to the gym, see the family, spend time with the family, and do some working out. Just an example, but that kind of way of thinking to kind of boost each other up, rather than becoming more and more bitter and resentful because you feel like you're pulling the weight in one area and they're not.
And I guess the key here is like that both partners are coming from this mindset of like adding to each other and like not trying to just take from one person. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I think when you feel like you can provide for yourself and you've got your stuff together in all areas, then you're not too concerned about what happens. Like you're just not. So, for instance, if my wife was to, this is really extreme, if my wife was to go and leave me for some other man, if I found out she was like shagging some other man, I would be like, obviously I'd be upset, but I would genuinely feel like that has highlighted something in me that's wrong with me. And I need to up my game. There's something missing. She's seeking something that I'm not providing. So I would feel like I'm disempowered in something that she's seeking somewhere else. So, if I was empowered in that, which I am, and I'm happy with the level of progress and the kind of level of empowerment that I've got in different areas of life, that my attitude is good luck. If you want to cheat on me or go and see some other guy, then hats off to him. Like he must be a legend. And I don't say that from like a big-headed point of view. I really don't. Like I've got my own insecurities as well, but you just kind of, you don't really care, if that makes sense.
So I want to clarify something, because you use the word a lot, and the word empower, like, so what do you actually mean? Like, let's like physically, visibly in the world, what does it mean to be empowered in an area? Like, let's take, any particular area, whether it be, let's say, family or emotions. How can someone get empowered in that area if they're lacking?
When you're empowered, it means that you are in control, fully in control, and at peace with that area of life. So you feel as though there's not much that you can be taught or learn, because you've got it covered. And if you're talking about family, typically people that are empowered in the family dynamic, you've got kids that can openly talk to their parents. You've got, people that can openly discuss things without the fear of someone taking offense. People who ring you to consult If you wasn't empowered in the family dynamic, they wouldn't do that. They would seek it elsewhere. If you're empowered in money and finance, it means that you don't rely on anyone for an income. So, I don't rely on my kids have seen me, that my kids have spent their whole life watching me pull out the table and a piece of paper and sketch some ideas and try them out. And some have worked and some haven't. And they've grown up with that level of thinking that you can just create your life. You can just make stuff up, and as long as you work hard, it will work. That's empowerment in business to me, because I've never relied on a job. So it's kind of just being in control and feeling at ease with yourself in that area of life, and feeling happy with yourself. So fitness, for instance, I would say, because there's always kind of this, like, you always ease off the accelerator when you get towards empowerment. So like when you're on a diet, it's a prime example. When you're trying to lose weight, you're in the gym, you're hammering it, you're getting some results. You might be seeing a little six pack come through in your chest muscles and all that. And then just as you get towards the target that you had, you might ease off and you might go and have a curry. And it's almost like a natural governor that you put on yourself. It's like you can't quite push past the goal. You can't even get to the goal. Just as you get to it, you kind of ease off. And I think empowerment's when you hit the goal, when you're kind of there.
I know. I mean, that's something I can definitely relate with. I've definitely been a yo-yoer with fitness.
Yeah,
same.
Yeah. I'll go from having a six pack to being fat. It's been my story, and it continues.
I guess it's also that kind of acknowledgement as well, that like even when you get empowered, like you're like really empowered in your business, but equally you always know there's something to learn. There's you never know everything. There's always,
of course,
you're always the master knows he's always the student.
Absolutely. And I always believe that you should continuously learn and work on your self-development. But again, that's another habit that you build into your life. And just by having the habit, you feel more empowered because you've got it covered. You've got it in control. You know that at certain times of the week, you're working on your gym. At certain times of the week, you're working on your money. And talking of habits, relationships is another thing that I put into the habits. So relationships, for instance, we've got this big whiteboard in our kitchen, and across...
I saw it, man. It's
there you go.
Yeah.
Right, yeah. So
hand out on there.
Really?
Yeah, it's cute.
So talking about relationships, the podcast is about dating, so I won't kind of mention the family relationships, but the wife, like, we've got time on there, non-negotiable time, where we will have a date night every fortnight. We've got time on there where we'll just have a walk, or we have a hot tub session and all that kind of stuff. And when those even to the point of texting my wife, like I have a reminder on my phone to text my wife, and that's not because I don't love her any less, or I put her last or any of that crap. It just means that when life gets in the way, I won't forget. So I stop what I'm doing, I do it, and it's done, and it's the habit. And she's received the text, and she's none the wiser. It was a reminder and all that kind of stuff. It's just a habit, and when you build those habits,
it's really easy to forget, like, things like that. Like, in one of our past episodes, we said I had a reminder years ago of an ex-girlfriend of mine to, like, once a week to make sure I told her I loved her, because otherwise I just forget her. I forget to say it otherwise. And it was like, I never knew it was there. She was happy because regularly she'd hear me. It felt spontaneous to her, but it was just it's like a structure for me to make sure that, you stay in that kind of emotion of the relationship.
Absolutely. And the sad thing is, I've seen people that haven't got habits like that, and what they do is they kind of slowly fall out of stuff. They stop doing stuff, and they get to the point where the relationship falls apart because they start bickering about, when we met you did this, when in the early stages you did this, and the reply from the person is something like, oh yeah, but it's been so long since I did that, I don't want to do it now because you'll think I'm weird, or you think I'm and that's crazy. It's just because it didn't creep up a little habit. Yeah, bizarre.
Well, there's definitely something that you've got. Well, there's a few things that you've got that we haven't got, but the main thing here is around being in such a long-term relationship. Whether it's 10-year marriage and knowing your wife for 17 years. And one of the things that I say to people from time to time is, like, from where I am now, I've never been in a 40-year relationship or marriage or whatever. So I can't go around advising people on what it takes to last in that. All I know is where I stand at the moment is that things change. I'm here, I'm doing my best and I'm putting my bit in, but I'm also aware that, things can change and whatnot. But here I am talking to you, and you've definitely got some longevity. Like what is it that, you feel helps, especially when there's two different people and they're evolving?
Yeah, I think it's very interesting you mentioned evolving, because before I get into that, I think that one of the things that helps is that the fact that teamwork, support, I think trust, the fact that you can kind of come up with an idea that's a bit risky and they put their trust in you, and then it pays off, and then you do it again, and then they trust you a bit more, and then it pays off, and then after a while they don't even question your craziness and you just do it because and that's been my life. But but it's interesting you say evolving, because one of the biggest things that I've seen, and as I say, I've been with my wife for 17 years and we've seen a lot of relationships die, and that is people tend to just naturally grow apart without, and it comes back to not empowering yourselves in the areas that that are not high on your values. So instead they just move further and further apart, seeking what is high on their values. So you'll see two couples and they've both got different jobs, and they'll go to work in the day and they won't see each other all day, and one will be working for someone and one will be working for someone else, or one will be building a business and one will be working for someone else, or they'll both be building businesses of their own and they don't see each other all day. They come back late at night, 6-7 o'clock, and they're not in the right frame of mind to even talk because they've had a hard day, or they're still at work mentally, or they've got some paperwork to sort out, they're thinking about tomorrow, and then they don't really talk, and then the next day they do it all again, and at the weekend, and then years go by, and then all of a sudden they sit down to dinner and they look at each other like, I don't really love you anymore. We've grown apart, and they wonder why, because they've just both been building and evolving different things. Where something I find bizarre is why more people don't build businesses together. Like why couples don't work together and build something together and really, really drive home that teamwork. Because if you're building something and you're excited about something together, then you're gonna naturally bond. So yeah, it's bizarre. I think if aliens were looking at us down from space, they'd just think, what the fuck are these people doing? Like they split apart all day, then people who live in the suburbs drive to London, and people who live in London drive to the suburbs, and then they get the train back, and what are these crazy people doing?
Do you think a lot of people look at the kind of idea of like building a business together as a couple and just feel concerned that it's going to just put extra strain on their relationship?
Potentially, yeah. I think they do. Yeah, I do. And I think that they don't do it because it's not high on their values. So when they get together, it might just be someone who likes different things. They might like different things, and they've got with that person because they fill the gap of the things that they don't like. So instead of empowering each other on all areas and doing what I said, trying to strategically kind of empower each other in all areas, they don't. So they get stronger and stronger in the areas that they're good at and move further and further apart, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I've seen it with couples that I've known where there's like, for instance, like the woman, she'll be very big into spirituality when they first meet, but they have a common love of, say, travel and family together. So they do a lot of, travel and family stuff, but slowly her spiritual desires just kind of become lower and lower down,
fizzle out,
and then there kind of grows a resentment as well between the couple.
A resentment, yeah, and the thing is, because that's like her you could argue that spirituality is in her purpose, if you like her most kind of soul guided desire. When that fizzles out, what she'll do is she'll seek someone that wants to recognize that in her and praise her for that, and that's when they go and shag the guy. As soon as someone shows some interest in her spirituality again, old flames, ignite, and that's it.
Yeah, it's true.
And the other thing's fact, like even when they do fizzle out in that, the next problem is kind of the fantasies of thinking that there's one person that's going to make them happy. If they could only find that man that gets her. Yeah. When really it's not about getting you, it's about getting yourself, and just worrying about yourself, like putting yourself first. Yeah. And allow them to get themselves first. When you see these mega couples, they've already got their stuff together. They're not concerned about filling a void in the other person's relationship. It's just the other person's life. It just doesn't happen.
I think it's a case of like when you get yourself in a place where you're happy with your life, you kind of attract someone who's exactly the same situation.
Absolutely.
Instead of who's also looking to kind of fill a missing hole. And like I think we talked about this a little bit before, like you got the opposite of people who are looking for holes to fill or need fixing in some way, and they find someone and just becomes this kind of codependency between the two of them where they're like almost like stealing energy from each other constantly.
Yeah. I think that's why a lot of these these rich actors and actresses, they get together because immediately they get each other to a degree. They know what they're going through. So they feel like, I haven't got to fill that void and you haven't got to fill that void. We just understand each other.
But then a lot of them do break up.
Oh, yeah. A lot of them
they're like on rotation. Hollywood rotation going on. That you don't get invited to.
No. Yeah. But the point is, like, happiness is not external. It's not, you're not going to find happiness in a man. If I could only just find the right man, I'd be happy. That's crap. Your happiness is in you. And if you're not happy with yourself, you'll be searching for that forever and ever and ever.
Yeah, so like for me, I can really relate because I'm relatively young in my relationship. It's been just about 2 years now, and I really recognize the youngness of the relationship, and for me as well. But what I've seen in the past, like I would say, I'd class myself as a self-confessed serial dater in the past, where but what that experience gave me was the understanding that this
an overdraft.
Was that an overdraft?
Yeah.
What I got was like the realization of what you're saying. It's like the other person is not going to make me happy. Because I've never found it. There's always this like feeling of like, something else. There's something missing.
Something missing.
So it's really interesting, and I'm learning a lot. I'm going to be re-listening to this with a paper and pen. But yeah, it's fascinating to hear you talk about this, and thanks so much for being so open and upfront about it. So,
mate, it's a pleasure.
The question I have is then, were you and your partner always this way? Were you always empowering each other, or is this something you learned along the way and you realized that it just happened by chance and you're very grateful?
It has been. I've always embraced self-development. So since we met, just after, I've been kind of developing myself, and I even allocate some of my income towards my self-development. And as I've learned new stuff, I've grown in business, I've grown in finance, and I've kind of taught her stuff, and she supported me. And then at the same time, she's really kind of taught me a lot about, as I say, being more compassionate and the more of the family dynamic and even social. We hosted that big party. That wouldn't be something that I would do.
Oh, really?
That's something. Yeah. So, for instance, we talk about empowering people. She loves event planning. So one of the ways that I got, and she doesn't like the business thing. I wouldn't say she doesn't like the business thing. She wants to start a business, but she doesn't. It's not high on her value list. She doesn't naturally enjoy business and entrepreneurship. But one of the things where I kind of strategized the whole get the best of both was she organizes the events for our business. So she did our tier 1 trader ball at Christmas. She organized that whole thing and planned all that. She organized the charity party that I hosted at the weekend, and that was a big entrepreneur networking event. So again, she's around all the entrepreneurs, but she's doing what she loves, and she sees it through because she's got a vested interest in it. She wants people to enjoy the event that she's spent all that time and energy hosting. And at the same time, she gets to up her game. So it's kind of been a natural progress over the years, but certainly something that we're always working on.
So it's like a team. Is it something that was she also drawn naturally to self-development, or was that something you kind of introduced into the relationship?
Yeah, no, definitely not naturally drawn to it. It's something that I've, definitely something I've introduced.
Is there any?
It's like when you go into self-development, it's almost like people start calling you a Scientologist or something. It's like a cult. I'm only reading books. I'm not torching anyone on a fire.
Yeah, no, because like I think that's something that comes up in a lot of relationships with people, where one of the two people in the if there's a 2-person relationship, wants to get into kind of self-development and developing themselves, and the other person kind of has a resistance to that. So like, how did you go about kind of introducing that into your marriage relationship?
This is really a great way to sum up kind of what we've just been talking about. I just put myself first and said, look, I'm doing it because this is high on my values. And if you don't like it, then you shouldn't be with me. That's it. So just by putting myself first and going after what I wanted, it just naturally worked out.
Yeah. And also, what I really also hear in there is like leading by example. Like you went into it without you weren't necessarily forcing her into it as well. You went into it and you led by example, and she saw the change and what you got out of it and was just kind of drawn to it as well.
Absolutely. And I think she's obviously seen the results as well. I think it's hard because like maybe when I did start really hammering self-development, there was a lot of people that you lose naturally, and she's had to put up with those people go, oh, Jay's changed and all that kind of stuff. But then at the same time, she then sees the results. And when she sees something like me hosting a big party, for instance, where we raised 20 grand for a charity, you can't really, there's nothing bad to say about that. So at the same time, it's like, well, everything he's doing is working and it's for the good, and kind of, I want to go with that, so.
Yeah, there's someone, one of my mentors who says like, when you go for what you love, everyone benefits.
Absolutely.
And that's the difference between the idea of being selfish and actually just living your life and creating what it is that you're here to create. And going full for it, because there is a lot of that in the world currently, like people either not going for what they want or always compromising because they're worried about what others are thinking. And then in doing so, you're not actually living your life, which is, we're here as independent beings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's really cool.
I always think of it like this. We've got like these certain things in us that are, from the soul, if you like. So when we're born, we've all got these different things, different people we find attractive, different music we like, different activities we like. Some like art, some like music, some like sports. And they're kind of your natural things. You mentioned spirituality. They're natural things that you're guided towards as a human when you're born. That's in you. It's what makes you you. So that's almost like your little light. And then you make decisions every single day based on what it is that you love most. So you'll have all these decisions to make every day, and then your body enacts the decision. Your body just it makes the decision for you. It's the vehicle, if you like. And the only thing that can change that direction of that is external pressures and doubts and fears put onto your mind to make a different decision. Yeah. And what happens is we make all these different decisions and we veer off track to what is in our true self, all of those little flecks of gold, you can call them. And what happens is you end up in a place that you didn't want to approximate. And then you just feel bitter, resentful, and, sometimes hateful. And then you feel like there's someone else out there that can bring all that back to you. Yeah. And it just can't. You have to sort yourself out. You have to go after what you want.
Yeah, I mean, in some cases, actually, some people believe that there's nothing they can do, let alone fill in the void with someone else.
Yeah,
and that's when they say, "Oh, it's too late now." It might as well just settle.
Yeah.
Give up.
Crazy.
Yeah, I think we've pretty much covered everything we wanted to talk about in this podcast episode. Is there any final words from you, Jason? I mean, you've said a lot, to be fair. You've some real bangers, some real knockout tips and hints here.
One of the things I love about this podcast is it's so polar. It's so, I mean, this podcast is everything we're saying. It's just have your opinion, be true to your opinion. And this podcast it's raw. It don't shadow anything. It don't kind of hide anything under the carpet. You just come out and you say it how it is. And I think that's great. So my last kind of final words would just be selfish, be who you want to be, and everything else will work itself out.
Great.
I love that.
So just before you go then, Jason, where can people find you if they want to find you? I'm sure they're going to be looking for you now. After this.
By the way, I'm not like a relationship coach or anything. I'm far from it.
Yeah.
I actually think you could run a wonderful weekend workshop for couples.
Yeah, man.
And what you just said here, like, you've got a wealth of experience in like becoming an empowered couple. Like it's something that couples would be really drawn to.
Maybe a few more years under the belt, and we've got our 10-year wedding anniversary in September, so we're actually booked. We've booked some time away to Ibiza, funnily enough, to a nice adult-only chill-out resort. So
nice.
Looking forward to that. But yeah, you can find me on all the social channels. Jason Graystone, J_Graystone on Instagram. I think that's the primary channel, I guess. But Twitter, Jason Graystone, and all the rest of them. YouTube, Jason Graystone. If you're interested in financial empowerment and wealth creation, you can go to jasongraystone.com and sign up for a free newsletter and check out the podcast.
Yeah, I highly recommend his podcast. It's really cool. I don't know if you checked it out.
Yeah, I've listened to the first few episodes. Like your story is incredible, actually, and the way you tell it is just beautiful.
Oh, thanks.
It's really relatable. Like some of the things you talked about. Like it's funny. Like I grew up on a council estate, and I remember listening to your first episode, and you're talking about how people are sitting around on steps complaining about stuff, and it just took me back. I was like, God, I remember those times. I know what it looks like.
Oh, yeah,
cool. All right. Thanks again, Jason. I'm very, very excited to get the response for this particular episode. It's been a very powerful one. I really appreciate your time on this. And we've just absolutely loved having you on. I'm definitely going to listen to this again and take notes.
Thanks for having me, guys. It's been a pleasure.
It's been a pleasure.
Cool, mate. Well, look after yourself and we'll speak soon.
Take care.
Ciao, ciao.